Today I'm in downtown LA at the Broad Museum. The Broad is a free art museum that specializes in art from the 1950s through the present. It was founded by Eli and Edie Broad and originally populated with art from their collection. Before we go inside, let's talk about this gorgeous architecture. The museum is next to the Disney Concert Hall. So Eli and Edie wanted a building that would be complementary to the Disney Concert Hall, but they also wanted something that would reflect the modern art that was going to be inside. So they came up with a concept they called the Veil and the Vault. The veil is this honeycomb shape and it rests on the outside, and the vault is the concrete cased interior. It's not just the exhibition areas, but it's also the physical vault where they store pieces that aren't currently on display. Even though it's free, reservations are recommended. This line is for the people who don't have reservations. This one is if you do. The first exhibit I visited was the Infinity Mirror Room. It's also free, but you need a separate reservation for it. Here's the line to see it. It's a single person exhibit. If you're with the group, then your group goes in together, but you don't go in with other people. You can stay for 1 minute only. You can see how cool it was. The next exhibit I wanted to see was Keith Haring. Holy bright colors, Batman, you need shades for this room. Okay, I'm sorry. Even though the general collection is free, they do charge for special exhibits like Keith Haring. Haring's exhibit is called Art is for Everyone. He started as a street artist in New York and gained notoriety by drawing graffiti on the New York subway system, for which he was arrested more than once. This exhibit was inspired by one of his earliest exhibitions at the Tony Shafrazi Gallery in New York in 1982. The large-scale paintings are done on tarps that you would get at the hardware store. This was much cheaper than buying expensive large-scale art canvases. Check out these totem poles. This large mural is called The Matrix. He painted it in 1983 in one day with no preconceived plan. He started painting at one end and finished at the other end. Most of his works are really busy, so I love the simplicity of these window panes. As his popularity increased, he opened the pop shop. He felt like if you can't afford a piece of art, you can have art on a t-shirt, a calendar, stickers, or whatever. It was always his goal that art is for everyone. Keith was an early victim of AIDS and died at the age of 31. This is the first ever museum exhibition of Haring's art in Los Angeles. There are 10 rooms with about 120 pieces of his art. I first saw a Keith Haring exhibit at the DeYoung Museum in San Francisco, but this exhibit just blew me away. It'll be at the Broad until October 8th. Let's head up the escalator to the general collection. As we're headed up the escalator to the third floor, let me tell you a little bit about Edie Broad. She is actually the one who started out as the collector in the family. She was always attracted to art, and she bought her first print of Picasso's copy of Three Musicians when she was 12 years old on a school trip. Who knew that one print would lead to this entire fabulous museum? And when you get to the top of the escalator, you're going to be greeted with a room full of large-scale art by various artists, and this gives you an example of what you're going to see in the galleries around it. This sculpture is by Jeff Koons. It's called Tulips. It is one of the most popular and most Instagrammable sculptures up here. These next rooms start the Roy Lichtenstein galleries. Lichtenstein is considered one of the fathers of pop art. A lot of his artwork looks like comic books, but he never did write for comic books, but he used them as inspiration. It's really kind of hard to get a sense of scale for these paintings unless you have someone in front of them. They are really large scale. This one is probably 10 feet tall, maybe 12 feet. These are really large paintings. This series is actually one of my favorite. It is of Rouen Cathedral, and it is inspired by Monet's Rouen Cathedral. Monet painted the Rouen Cathedral 30 times in different seasons and different lights. Lichtenstein only did 5 of these. When we leave the Lichtenstein gallery, we head into the Andy Warhol gallery. Andy Warhol is probably one of the most well-known artists of this period outside the art world. I expected most people to be attracted to the famous 20 Jackies or the Liz silkscreen, but I saw more people try this dance step or try to pose like Elvis. The exhibit continues down this hall. It's the Andy Warhol hall. I'm sorry. I cracked myself up. Moving on. This gallery contains the work of Ed Ruscha, who often incorporated words into his artwork. Ruscha was born in Nebraska, grew up in Oklahoma, but he moved to LA for art school in 1956, and he's still here. The right people, those other people, this is where I belong. The first piece of note that Eli and Edie Brode collected was a drawing by Vincent van Gogh, and they cherished that piece. But they traded it for this red piece. This is by an artist named Robert Rauschenberg, and this was a pivotal moment in their collecting career. They decided from this piece that they wanted to collect art by contemporary artists, artists who were still alive. They liked to meet the artists. They would go to their studios, and sometimes they became really good friends with the artists. One of their very good friends is artist Jeff Koons. He's the one who did Tulips at the top of the escalator, and this gallery is all of Jeff Koons' work. I will say that Jeff Koons has a very eclectic style, from this painting, the rabbit, the balloon dog, Michael Jackson, this guy, the luxury train, the party hat, and the Hulk. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a cat? Well, this is what it's like. This would be what a cat sees when he comes into his human's dining room. This larger than life-size set is incredible. You can walk underneath it, but you cannot touch anything, and you can't jump up on the seats like a cat would. These next two galleries feature the work of Jean-Michel Basquiat. Like Keith Haring, Basquiat started as a graffiti artist. In 1982, he had an exhibit alongside Keith Haring when they were both still relatively unknown. He died a few years later at 27 of a drug overdose, but he was prolific. He did something like 1,200 drawings and 600 paintings. Look at this one. It's huge. One of his paintings sold a few years ago for $100 million. $100 million. There is so much more to see, so much more. The museum is free, but parking is not. With a validation, parking is $17 for up to 3 hours. It is such a fantastic museum, and the Keith Haring exhibit was outstanding. I hope this helps you find your adventure. Thank you for watching.